Hi guys, I'm excited for today's episode of EyeSwoon Unplugged because I'm gonna bake for you one of my absolute favorite tarts and one that I have been making for years and years that has stood the test of time. It is this lime raspberry French tart, and the reason that I love it so much is because it holds a special place in my heart. When I first hosted a dinner party, the first time I ever cooked for anyone and had people to my home, it was 1999. I'm aging myself right now. But I really wanted to make a raspberry tart because I'd worked at Indochine at the time and they made a tart that was similar, but I was really intimidated to roll out pastry. So I did a ton of research and I ended up finding and combining a few recipes that had a press-in dough. So essentially you're still using this fluted removable bottom tart pan, but rather than kind of rolling it out and making sure it was even and fussing with dough, it was more just this kind of cookie consistency dough that you just press right into the pan. Anyway, I have been making it ever since. It's adapted a little bit here and there over the years, but also this recipe became my claim to fame when I used to go to dinner parties or have dinner parties. Like I would always come back to this lime and raspberry tart. So it just triggers like memories for me. It was kind of my gateway into baking and into my career in the culinary space. Like making tarts kind of was the very beginning for me. So I'm excited to make this for you. I promise you it's not as intimidating as it looks, but it really does look incredibly beautiful and impressive. So I hope you experiment with me. I'm gonna take you through the process right now. So the first thing we're gonna do for this pastry is I'm going to take 1 stick of unsalted butter. I'm gonna put it in this pan. I'm gonna melt it and then let it cool. So here we have our melted butter, but it is piping hot right now and it does need to cool. We need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So this butter has cooled. I am going to slowly pour it into our flour, salt, sugar mixture and combine it until it has this cookie dough-like consistency. And then we're also going to put 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So as with any dough that you're working with, you never want to overwork it. So you're going to want to combine it until it is just combined and then let it be. How easy was making that dough? It was literally just a few ingredients mixed together, super simple. And now the best part is that I'm just going to take it and put it into this removable bottom fluted tart pan. And I'm just gonna press it into the pan, making sure that it is even. And I'm also going to go up the sides of the pan, again, making sure that the distribution of the dough is even. This pan has already been buttered with unsalted butter. And you really want to make sure you get into all of those little grooves and nooks and crannies with butter, because that is what's going to allow the tart to release itself when you want to remove it from the pan. The only thing that I will say is that you really want to make sure that everything is evenly distributed and that there isn't thicker parts and thinner parts. So just keep working it until you get that same amount of thickness in all areas. So you can see I'm pushing down with my thumb as I push with my middle finger along the sides to make sure that the dough is pressed directly into that fluting. And I'm also gonna go where the sides meet the bottom and just press down, because you don't want it to be really thick in that area. You want to maintain that same thin cookie crisp crunch. And if it gets too thick where those sides meet the bottom, it just might get like harder to bite into. So I already have my oven preheating to 350 degrees. I'm gonna make the lemon curd for you right now. We're gonna start with lime zest. The recipe calls for about 1.5 tablespoons of lime zest. I don't really know that I'm gonna measure. I'm probably just gonna zest 2 limes and see if that looks about right. But I will, of course, share the recipe at the end of this. And by all means, if you only have lemons and not lime, even if you have orange, any type of citrusy curd will be delicious. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whisk that together, and then I'm going to get a 1/2 cup of lime juice and some salt, and then we're going to make this curd. All right, I'm going to put 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and then I am slowly going to whisk in 1/2 cup of the lime juice. And then what I'm going to do is put this on a double boiler, and I will show you what that is. All right, guys, I have about 1/3 cup of water in the bottom of this pan. Then I have our curd mixture on top. This is what a double boiler is. And I am going to constantly whisk until this curd becomes thick enough that if you use the back of a wooden spoon, it's going to coat the back of the wooden spoon. It's probably going to be around 6 or 7 minutes, but your best indicator will be if you put that spoon in and it coats the back of it. But you have to constantly whisk the curd so that it doesn't curdle. Remember, these are eggs, so that constant motion is really essential. Another thing to note with the double boiler is you never want the water actually touching the bottom of the metal bowl. I think our curd is ready. I'm not sure if you could see the consistency here, but I'm gonna put this wooden spoon in, and you see how it's coating the back of the spoon. If it weren't ready, it would just slip right off. So that is your greatest indicator. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put it through a fine, I should say, strainer, so that those clumps of the lemon or lime zest are not in our beautiful tart. You want the flavor, but you don't want the fleck. All right, guys, I am gonna pour this right through this strainer. Whew, that's hot. I'm gonna push it through. We are putting butter into our curd right now. So I'm letting the butter melt in the curd while it's still hot. Then I'm gonna cover this with plastic wrap, and I'm going to refrigerate it for at least 3 to 4 hours. But you can even do it overnight or even 2 nights if you wanted to prepare this whole thing in advance. Just got out of the freezer. I'm gonna put it in the oven right now.